Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're exploring some really fascinating ancient wisdom called light on the path to the inner self. We're
Yeah.
thinking of this almost like a three-part audiobook journey. It's aimed at anyone looking to understand their inner world better. Doesn't matter if you're familiar with Eastern philosophy or completely new to it.
Right. And our goal isn't just to, read it aloud. We want to really get into the meaning behind the words, make it resonate.
Exactly, because the text itself emphasizes something crucial, doesn't it?
It really does. It says the deep meaning isn't found through external explanations or like intellectual study alone.
But through inner awakening, self-discovery,
Precisely. It frames it as a very personal journey inward.
which sounds great, but it also comes with a heads up. It says this isn't passive. It demands, well, real effort, courage, and some very honest self-reflection.
Yeah, it sets the stage clearly. This isn't about quick fixes or easy answers. It's pointing towards a genuine process of inner change.
So let's start our deep dive with part one. This lays the foundation with something called the four thresholds.
These are presented as fundamental conditions, almost like trials, maybe? Trials of initiation you navigate before the real inner learning starts.
The text calls them vital laws of supernature. What are we thinking that means? Something beyond the physical world we usually deal with.
That's a good way to frame it, I think. It suggests these laws operate on a deeper level, maybe a spiritual or metaphysical level, influencing consciousness directly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the first threshold is about the eyes. And the aphorism is really striking. Before the eyes can see, they must be incapable of tears.
Right.
Let's unpack this.
It seems to be hitting at how we handle our emotions, yeah.
Essentially, yes. The text suggests that strong emotional reactions, being overwhelmed by sadness, anger, grief, can actually cloud our perception.
Yeah.
They stop us seeing clearly.
So the idea is to cultivate some kind of inner stability, an equilibrium that isn't just knocked around by personal feelings or bad luck or loss. Exactly. Unshakable equilibrium. But, and this is important,
It's not about becoming cold or heartless.
definitely not. The text is clear on that. It's not indifference. And it's also not the kind of dullness you might get from being totally exhausted or just from old age. Those aren't helpful states for this.
So what is the goal then?
It's about consciously moving beyond the limits of our everyday reactive human nature, to open up an inner vision, a perception of a reality that's, well, superhuman, beyond the ordinary senses.
Okay, moving to the second threshold. The ears. The saying here is, before the ear can hear, it must have lost its sensitiveness.
This brings in the concept of the voice of the masters, or maybe think of it as eternal truth.
And the idea is this voice is always there.
Kind of like a subtle background frequency, yes. But our lives are just so full of noise, aren't they? External distractions, internal chatter.
Right. So only those who aren't constantly reacting to every little thing, the laughter, the anger, the drama of personal life, can actually tune into this deeper sound.
That's the gist. It's about finding an inner quiet that's so deep, external stuff just doesn't disturb it anymore.
The text uses some strong imagery, like closing the doors of the soul to all transitory sounds.
And facing the solitude of silence. It's pointing to a profound level of inner stillness. Like trying to hear a tiny whisper in a really loud room, you have to quiet everything else down first.
It even says we need to get past the noise of our own thinking, our emotions, our human soul, because those things change all the time.
They're seen as part of the transitory sounds. The aim is to tune into this deeper, soundless voice.
And the text suggests doing that could actually make us something more than man. That's a pretty bold statement.
It certainly points to a huge potential for human consciousness, suggesting it can evolve beyond its current common state.
All right, third threshold, the voice. And the line is, before the voice can speak in the presence of the masters, it must have lost the power to wound.
Now, this links our speech, how we express ourselves, directly to our active engagement with the world.
Implying that our communication needs purification.
Yes, exactly. It's a critical part of the journey.
And this purification means letting go of some really basic stuff, like needing to defend ourselves all the time, or clinging to the idea of our personal rights.
Even pride in being virtuous or having self-respect.
Wait, even pride in good things. Why?
Because, the text argues, even these can create a subtle barrier, a sense of me separate from you. It calls this the snake of self reappearing in a finer form. Our virtues can isolate us if we cling to them proudly.
So losing the power to wound isn't just about not saying mean things, it's deeper. It's about seeing ourselves as part of a huge, interconnected whole.
Yes, surrendering that tight grip on my rights, my status, and understanding the natural flow, the ups and downs everyone goes through.
And giving up pride, even in wisdom or virtue, if it creates that separation.
If it stops you feeling connected, yes, that kind of pride becomes a block.
So the voice needs to be free from self-interest to reach the divine, to speak truth.
Only when it comes from that selfless place can it align with that higher consciousness, according to this teaching.
Okay. And the fourth threshold, the soul's feet. The saying, before the soul can stand in the presence of the masters, its feet must be washed in the blood of the heart. The text clarifies soul here means the divine soul.
Right. And to be able to stand implies this deep confidence, this assurance. But it comes from surrendering our emotional turmoil, our ego, even our sense of just being human.
It sounds like a state of being fearless, unconscious of ordinary pain, with your awareness rooted in this deeper divine life.
That's the picture it paints.
But washed in the blood of the heart, that's intense imagery. What's the blood here?
The commentary suggests it represents the vital life force, the energy that drives us into incarnation in the first place. The drive for experience, pleasure, pain. Think of it metaphorically, the raw energy of our passions and desires.
So washing in it means fully experiencing and then mastering these drives, so they don't rule you anymore.
Exactly. It's a total surrender of that driving principle. When that energy, that blood, flows freely from the heart as surrender, the soul isn't compelled by those old desires for worldly experience anymore.
It can then stand before the masters, fearless and free, not needing those cycles for growth.
It's presented as a kind of liberation from what usually binds us to the physical and the need for external validation.
Wow. Okay, so that's part one. Pretty demanding groundwork. Part two then moves into actually walking the path, right?
Yeah.
Assuming we've started working through those thresholds.
Yes, now we're sort of inside the hall of learning, metaphorically speaking.
And this part gives rules or guidelines for the disciple as they start using these developing inner senses.
Exactly. Steps on the ladder, as the text puts it, guiding the use of these awakening faculties. They're described as inherent laws of this inner supernature.
The first one is a bit of a shocker. Kill out ambition. It calls ambition the first curse, but also a necessary teacher. That sounds like a contradiction.
It does, doesn't it? How can something be both?
Yeah, isn't some ambition needed for growth? How do we make sense of that?
Well, the key seems to be selfish ambition. The desire for personal gain, status, power over others. That's what needs to be killed out.
Ah, okay, so it's not about becoming lazy or having no drive.
No, the text actually says you should still work ambitiously in your actions, respect life, even be happy. It's the motivation that needs to change.
Finding the root of that selfish drive within the heart and removing it, which also means letting go of feeling separate.
Killing the desire for sensation just for sensation's sake, and even the hunger for personal growth if it's ego-driven.
Which brings us back to paradox. Learn from sensation, but kill the desire for it. Grow like a flower, unconsciously, but kill the hunger for growth.
It points to a really profound shift in why we do things. Desiring not for the separate self, but for something bigger.
Like desiring only what's already within us, this light of the world.
And what's beyond us losing ourselves in that ultimate reality. And even desiring what seems impossible to grasp fully, that ever-receding light of truth.
And those things we usually want for ourselves, power, peace, possessions, they get completely reframed, don't they?
They become qualities of the pure soul, shared by everyone. They belong to the united spirit of life, our true self.
So the peace isn't just personal calm, it's sacred, unshakable. The power makes you seem like nothing outwardly. And the possessions, they're wealth gathered for the collective spirit.
It's a total flip of the usual ego perspective on these things.
Next up, seek out the way. And it suggests doing two things at once.
Right.
Retreating inside and advancing boldly outside.
Yes, a dual approach. Introspection, contemplation, but also full engagement with the world, with life.
And there's no single magic formula, it seems. Devotion, study, action, observation, work, you need it all.
It suggests integrating all aspects of yourself. Even past mistakes, our vices, can be useful lessons if we overcome them. Virtue alone isn't enough.
Which leads to this incredibly powerful statement. Each man is to himself absolutely the way, the truth, and the life.
A radical declaration of inner potential and responsibility.
But with a really important condition attached.
Yes. It's true only when we see our individuality not as the end goal, but as the tool, the vehicle, to reach that greater life beyond individuality.
So how do we actively seek this way?
The text gives pointers. Look within honestly. Test your experiences. Use your senses wisely. Study the laws of life. And crucially, respect that dim star within, that inner spark.
It's the start of the way, that little inner light.
That's what it says. Pay attention to it. Its light will grow.
Then there's this beautiful image.
Yeah.
Look for the flower to bloom in the silence that follows the storm.
Suggesting that insight often comes after a period of inner struggle or purification, doesn't it?
Yeah. When the personality, the everyday self, kind of yields to the higher self, then comes the calm, and this flower opens.
Exactly. And in that stillness, something profound can happen. It describes it mysteriously, a voiceless voice, a formless messenger, the soul's flower opening fully. It's beyond words, really.
A deep inner knowing.
And from that peace, an inner voice might arise, saying something unexpected. It is not well. Thou hast reaped, now thou must sow.
Meaning the work continues. It's a cycle.
It seems so. Learning, acting, contributing, it doesn't stop. But the disciple, having gone through this,
Conquering desire, knowing themselves better, listening inwardly,
is now truly ready for the hall of learning, ready to listen to the song of life and grasp its harmony.
standing firm, obeying the inner warrior, which is both yourself and that divine spark. Listening with ears sharpened by experience, by pain and joy.
And eventually, the text suggests you reach a point where life itself is the teacher. You don't need external guides in the same way.
This connects to speech comes only with knowledge. Real, truthful speech flows from that direct inner knowing.
You gain that knowledge and the ability to speak from it after developing the inner senses and getting a handle on the outer distractions and selfish desires.
It's about really preparing to live the path, learning from everything earth, air, water, wise teachers, and that inmost self.
And the text reminds us, conquering those deep individual desires, that takes time, ages maybe, many experiences. But reaching that point is huge. It's the threshold of becoming more than man.
Okay, so that brings us to part 3. Through the gates. This sounds like getting closer to the core, the inmost.
Yes, it's described as a commentary on the path, dealing with being on the verge of this new reality, approaching divinity, essentially.
And the knowledge gained at this stage is seen as a trust from the Most High.
Earned by the soul becoming one with all other pure souls, and with that innermost essence. It's not personal property.
And there's a serious warning here about misusing it or neglecting it. Even advanced souls can fall.
Yes, a caution against carelessness or ego creeping back in, even at very high levels.
So approach this final stage with awe, but be prepared for the final struggle.
A struggle where fixed rules don't apply anymore. No external guides can map it out for you.
You have to rely entirely on inner knowing, holding on to the intangible, listening to the soundless, seeing the invisible.
It sounds like operating purely from intuitive awareness, beyond even the initial inner senses.
The opening of the flower metaphor comes back here too, signifying the full awakening of perception,
Bringing confidence, direct knowledge, absolute certainty.
followed by the pause of the soul. A silence filled with wonder, satisfaction.
Yes, a deep, fulfilling stillness. And those who reach it naturally want to help others find it too.
It's in this inner hall of learning that you find the true master, which is within yourself.
Your own highest principle, the ultimate source of wisdom within.
And the text contrasts our usual mental chatter, endless questions that don't really land, with true asking. What's that?
A deep inner yearning, a spiritual longing that resonates differently. It's not just intellectual curiosity.
And reading occultly means seeing with the spirit's eyes, beyond surfaces.
Perceiving the deeper realities, yes.
And real learning on this level only happens after winning that first big inner battle, the one against the ego.
That's the prerequisite. But once peace is established, the potential for learning is infinite.
The voice of silence stays with you then, helping you sort passions from divine potential.
Like an inner compass, yes. Guiding discernment.
So what are the gates of gold themselves?
They lead to the sanctuary of your own true nature, the source of your life power, not a physical place.
And getting there requires serious courage, to look at yourself without flinching. No fear, no shame.
Complete honesty. The key is finding that fine part, the pure essence of your being.
And beyond that threshold, sensation changes, becomes real in a new way.
Real, but of a different order, something unknown before.
The text singles out indolence, laziness, lack of effort as a big trap here. Keeps people stuck in surface pleasures.
Whereas effort, choosing to push past that inertia, leads to finer, deeper joys. The elixir of life, it calls it, hinting at something transformative.
So the person making that effort starts to see the potential, the gates of gold even in everyday life,
Oh,
and moves towards that new existence.
it's a gradual shift.
And entering this deeper phase means letting go of the grosser self.
Yes, and becoming your own teacher, always needing wisdom.
It also talks about needing the potential of both the pleasure seeker and the ascetic, valuing joy, but able to deny without suffering.
A kind of mastery, not denial for denial's sake, but being able to extract the essence, the real value, and let go of the superficial.
And importantly, there's no single path. Truth is universal.
Right. The gates aren't about entering a special club. They're about release from self-imposed limits.
And that release can happen unexpectedly.
Yes. Breaking free from inner darkness isn't always predictable.
It also notes that while religion gives morals, it might not answer "what am I?" directly.
And even virtue can become a cage if it makes us rigid. It even suggests a sinner who struggles deeply might find the threshold more easily than a detached ascetic sometimes.
Interesting. What about pain and despair? Where do they come from?
From within, ultimately. We permit them. Even seemingly random suffering connects back to deeper soul causes.
So the aim is to rise above both pain and pleasure, unite them in service of something higher.
To get real joy, deep sensation, profound peace, a state beyond duality, where the divine within is dominant. That's when life becomes real in this context.
And the strength for all this, where does that come from?
Deep conviction. Self-conquest is the ultimate victory. That inner war is the most important one.
Leading to mastery over your inner heaven and hell, your own states of mind.
Exactly. Peace comes after conquering that shifting serpent of self, the constant chase for pleasure and avoidance of pain.
And the animal in man, our instincts, not bad, but a force to be guided.
A great force, yes. Harnessable when the divine within is given sovereignty. The advice is to make it ruler over yourself so it doesn't rule others through you.
So the strong person walks carefully, uses their physical senses, but also develops these new inner ones.
Learns about the psychic world, its use, forms the psychic body, becomes convinced this new life is real and desirable.
And that marks the time for the great adventure.
Entering the great temple of his own pure divinity, the central flame within.
Where all is found, differences cease.
That's the promise. And the soul then comes back out, acts in the world without fear, regret, or even excessive joy. Just does what's needed.
And the core truth again, that hidden light within us and within the world can light up everything.
It mentions Buddha passing through these gates as proof they're accessible.
And it all comes back to recognizing universal unity, coherence, that's key for human development.
That deep, profound recognition that everything is connected, part of one coherent whole. It's fundamental.
And may peace be with you.
And as you reflect on this deep dive into light on the path, maybe take a moment to consider that hidden light within yourself. Think about the potential for realizing that profound, universal unity and coherence. It's quite something to contemplate for your own inner journey.